John Paul Eberhard is the founding president of Anfa. His illustrious past includes being Dean of Architecture and Environmental Design at SUNY Buffalo, President of AIA Research Corporation, and head of the Department of Architecture at Carnegie Mellon University. The intersection of architecture and neuroscience became a passion realized when, as a La Trobe Fellow, he conducted the research that was the foundation of Anfa. Those are the facts. We who know John can barely find the words to describe his energy, commitment, and love that actually defines him. Tonight it gives me great pleasure to announce the Anfa John Eberhard Fellowship. I'm going to read what's on the plaque. It says, on the occasion of the Anfa Conference on this day, September 24, 2016, at the Salk Institute for Biological Studies, the Academy of Neuroscience for Architecture announces the establishment of the John Paul Eberhard Fellowship for the Study of Neuroscience and Architecture. To stimulate graduate students in either field to prepare their thesis and dissertations and undertake the research required by generating new knowledge and a broader understanding of how bridges can be created between these two worlds. We gratefully acknowledge John Paul Eberhard, FIAI, for his wisdom, research, and efforts in the creation of and continued support of Anfa, and further his commitment to encouraging graduate research for committed explorers of the brain landscape.
In 2003, Rusty Gage, who's a scientist at the Salk Institute, gave a talk to the American Institute of Architects Convention about how neuroscience was beginning to develop sufficient knowledge that it might be valuable to architects. And Allison Whitelaw, who was the president of the local chapter of the AIA in San Diego at the time, proposed that something happen that would make this into a legacy project, something that would last for a long time. And I had been working at the American Institute of Architects in Washington on the neurosciences. And so we came together, and around the presentation by Rusty, and with Allison's blessings, formed the Academy of Neuroscience for Architecture. And it's been operating ever since. And I'm thankful that today the Academy is making a special award in my behalf.
I wish he could hear your applause. Receiving the award tonight for John is Marilyn Peterson of McLean, Virginia. Marilyn first met John at a meeting on neuroscience at Johns Hopkins Brain Science Institute. She was already very familiar with his writings. They drove home together that afternoon, and during their conversation, they realized they had much in common, especially thoughts on neuroscience and architecture and how one interacts with the other in the brain. John then introduced Marilyn to Anfa, and for several years they have been attending the Salk conferences together. Since then, they have become very good friends. John also has been instrumental in assisting Marilyn's efforts to focus Johns Hopkins Brain Science Institute towards researching neuroscience and architecture. Tonight, she will be accepting an award for John, since it is not possible for him to make the trip to San Diego. Marilyn will deliver it to John as soon as she returns home.
Thank you, everyone. It is an honor for me to accept the award for John. Eberhard. He is my most treasured mentor as well as a very close friend. John was not only the founder of Anfa, but also today he continues to be the inspiration and motivation of an organization that he proposed long before neuroscience and architecture were used in the same sentence. Long before technology was available that could measure how or where in the brain's countless neurons something was creating an instant response to its physical surroundings. The first time I met John, she said, was at a meeting at Johns Hopkins Brain Science Institute. My briefcase that day contained articles written by John, which I had read over the years. Articles that highlighted how the best of architecture was more than the sum of its parts. That the best architecture reached into the brain, creating an instant response from the millions of neurons that suddenly became aware that they were encountering something strong, something beautiful, something causing them to immediately activate it. After the meeting, I offered John a ride home. During that conversation on that ride, we realized we really did have much in common, especially our thoughts on architecture and how it affected those who lived within the walls. We also discovered our mutual admiration for the same architect, Fay Jones, of Fayetteville, Arkansas. We both knew that Fay had designed the famous Thorn Crown Chapel. John then mentioned to me that he had built a full-scale model of that famous chapel in his office. When I told him that Fay Jones had designed the home we lived in, an immediate bond was formed. Now, there is a reason I'm bringing up Fay Jones tonight. After working with Fay for over 5 years, I now realize that he and John Eberhard thought of architecture in the same way. If I can take just a few minutes of your time, I would like to share with you a few of the words Fay Jones spoke as he accepted the AIA Gold Medal Award in 1990. My family was fortunate to have been there that night. Fay's remarks were short but powerful, and I'm quoting here. As architects, we have the potential to build beautiful, well-composed spaces, large and small, to not only accommodate our functional needs, but that will also serve as models which represent the best of our ideals. We have the power and the responsibility to shape new forms, physical and spatial forms, that will illuminate, nourish, and poetically express our human qualities at their spiritual best. And that's the end of the quote. The reason I have included the above quotation is because Fay Jones often told me that he always felt that he was a cathedral builder born 500 years too late. Now, knowing John as I do today, I believe that John Eberhard is also a cathedral builder, but born just at the right time. John, like Fay Jones, instinctively knew, long before technology could measure the effects of architecture on the brain's neurons, that excellent architecture could accomplish wonders. This finds us here today at the Salk Institute, an absolutely amazing architectural achievement whose design was conceived by Jonas Salk to prove his theory that inspiring and beautiful building, that this one will serve to create the environment within which future scientists will not only excel but prove him correct. So, once again, thank you so much for the honor to be the one accepting this outstanding award for John Eberhard. It is because of John's valuable insight and leadership that we are all here tonight. Now, may we now raise our glasses for a toast to our outstanding founder for everything he has given to all of us. To John Eberhard. Thank you.
Award for the student competition. Those of you who were here on the opening day, you saw the presentation by three very fine teams of students, three of the many that entered the competition, which was to design a school in Yantalo, Peru. I think what might have excited most of the people is the fact that is said in the competition, the school will be built. It's not very often that when you're a student, you can have a project built. Well, Yantalo itself is a miracle of sorts. In the high jungle area of Peru is a spot that was originally thought about putting a clinic by a gentleman like Dr. Luis Vasquez, who is with us tonight. And he was on a trip to Peru, which Allison and I were part of, and we started talking before we left about what he wanted to do, something to honor his mother in a way. He's a physician, and he wanted to build a clinic. Well, that clinic and the dream of that clinic is now a hospital. It's a United Nations designated World Health Center. And it has changed the area so much, I'm not going to take the time to try and describe it to you all, but suggest that when you have the time, you go to yantalo.org. You'll see the number of videos and everything that's available about what's happened there, which is nothing short of a miracle, all done by this one gentleman. We talked about getting students involved because there were two students who worked with us to create the original design, and it's pretty close to what they did. So there's imagination, there's wonderful things that happen from students because they don't have to contend with building codes and everything at that point in their careers. So they move ahead and do something which could be built there. And it was built by people in the community. It's a long story. Go to Yantalo. At any rate, the three finalists were here. They made their presentations. I'm going to ask Dr. Vasquez to come up and make the final award. That group will go to Yantalo sometime in the near future after they work on their designs, get it ready to present, spend a week with the people, working it out so they can move forward.
Do you have the paper of the names? Oh, that's the one you gave me?
Oh, I gave that to you.
Fortunately, we're beyond that time.
We are.
I'm very honored to be here for many reasons. We've been working with Gil for several years now. We've designed several buildings, a hemodialysis unit, a crematory, a school for technical technology for health professionals, and working on other projects as well. So when the concept of a school for the community was thought, as in the past, we decided, okay, why don't we let the students get involved in this? The students have done this wonderful job, represent the future leadership. All of you in this room are leaders, but some of us may not be around in 20 or 25 years, but there are many in this room who will be here. Those are the leaders that we have to give them the example of how to create things with responsibility and passion. That's the only way things can be done. Selecting brains is not easy. The three groups have done a tremendous work in presenting and projecting their concepts. But like any contest, there's only one first place, one position. But I would say the three groups won. And I want to honor the three groups with an applause because they deserve it. May I please call Kim Min-yu and Kim Yong-jin. Kim and Kim. For your information, Peru has beautiful business relationships with Korea. It's one of our favorite partners for agriculture. And we congratulate you for the wonderful job you have done. And you will be coming to Yantalo to start working on the site, on the area, make sure that the soil is good, that the wind is in the right direction, that the rain is going to get you wet, and that's fine, you know. But that's part of it. I know there are many, many other events in your lives that will coronate with success. There's no question on that. So we're very happy that you're here. The two students are from Harvard University. Congratulations.
The next time I'll be talking to you, and I'm saying it's time to go over and to see the movie, but we'll do that after dessert. Dr. Tom Albright.
Thanks, Gil. An afterthought. So I'm Tom Albright. Many of you know me, but for those who don't, I'm a neuroscientist. I'm a member of the faculty here at the Salk Institute. This has been my professional home for 30 years. And I'm also the most recent past president of the Academy of Neuroscience for Architecture. And so I'd like to welcome you on behalf of the Salk Institute, my home, and I'd like to welcome you on behalf of the Academy of Neuroscience for Architecture to be at this terrific conference. Now, all of you know that the buildings on this site, and in particular the buildings that are behind us over here, the Lucan buildings, are revered works of architecture. But what you may not know, or you may not know as well, is that this is one of the greatest biomedical research institutes on the planet. And great institutes require great leadership. And it's my special pleasure tonight to introduce to you the new president of the Salk Institute for Biological Studies, Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn. Dr. Blackburn hails from Tasmania, of all places. Many of you probably never met somebody from Tasmania, but we have her here. She trained in molecular biology. She served on the faculties of the University of California, Berkeley, and then at UCSF. And in 1984, she published a report in the journal Cell, one of the fanciest journals in the field, a report that, along with her co-author, Carol Greider, who was a graduate student with her at the time, in which she described for the first time a molecule that's known as telomerase. Now, telomerase is an enzyme. Telomerase is an enzyme that's involved in the maintenance of telomeres. Telomeres are nucleotide sequences, and by the way, there's going to be a quiz after this. So these are nucleotide sequences that sit at the ends of every one of your chromosomes, and they play a very important function in the maintenance of the chromosomes, or the protection of the chromosomes against damage, against degeneration, against the possibility of fusion with other chromosomes, all of which could be catastrophic, as you might imagine. And so you don't want that to happen, so telomeres are really important. And telomerase and the molecular biology of telomeres has since Dr. Blackburn's discovery become a fundamental area of biology, and it is now known to play important roles, and particularly important roles, in such things as, scary things, as aging and cancer. And in 2009, Dr. Blackburn was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine for her work with Carol Greider, her former graduate student, and a colleague, Jack Szostak. And I quote from the Nobel citation, "for the discovery of how chromosomes are protected by telomeres and the enzyme telomerase." Now, Dr. Blackburn's formal association with the Salk Institute began 15 years ago. In 2001, she was appointed as a non-resident fellow at the Salk Institute. These non-resident fellows, who we affectionately call NERFs, have been part of the Institute since the beginning, and they play a very important role, in advising the faculty at the Institute about scientific directions for the future, about appointments and promotions on the faculty. And so Liz has served in that role since 2001, and knowing a great deal about her and she knowing a great deal about us, we were extremely excited last year when she expressed interest in taking on the position of the president of the Salk Institute. And we successfully recruited her to that position, and she started here in the beginning of January of this year. She's still in the honeymoon phase. And you know, there's a lot of work ahead, and I can tell you, I've watched her over the past several months, and she's full of energy. She's jumped into this with gusto, and I think I speak on behalf of the faculty and all the staff here at the Institute. We're absolutely delighted to have her steering the ship. This is a really good thing. And so I give to you Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn, the new president of the Salk Institute for Biological Studies.
Thank you, Tom, so much. I better keep this brief because I'm standing between everybody and dessert. So, but I do want to speak a little bit about the Salk. And since Tom got to talk about my science, what does Tom know about my science? Then I figure I can get to talk about architecture. What do I know about architecture? So, but particularly the architecture of the Salk. And I think over those 15 years, those brief but intense visits I would have every year to the Salk, I think this place sort of soaked into me. So when I was in Paris last fall and I got a phone call and this mysterious person says, would I be interested in considering being president of the Salk? I suddenly sort of thought, maybe that would be something. Anyway, as Tom said, here I am. So I am now president, and I really want to warmly welcome you to this truly, truly special place. And as Tom and I have discussed, buildings, right, they shelter and they protect and they inspire and they create spaces for interactions. And interactions between people are particularly the lifeblood of science, and especially the lifeblood of the kind of science that gets done at the Salk. And those of you who know the buildings, not just outside but inside, know that the laboratories and the spaces, they flow into each other. And then there's another thing that you may not know about the Salk architecture inside. At a very practical level, certainly unseen to the public, the unique design of the buildings here, which was conceived by Jonas Salk as he really understood what you need in science, it encloses something very mundane seeming, open floors for research laboratories, but pipe spaces in between each level, and so you can have evolution of all the kinds of facilities that you need, the requirements for mundane things like lighting, heating, and so on. But it all works because of the design of the lab. And I think what's remarkable is that there's been continuous evolution of the way science has been done over 50 years ago when this building was built. But that is amazing to me, that the building still really works for science as it works now, because the building could evolve as science evolves. I don't think that's very common at all for buildings that have such high technical demands as the kind of building that we're in, that requires the kind of science for us to be doing in it. So that's sort of the practical part. That's the science. This is what's going on inside the walls. But of course, what really everybody knows about at Salk is exemplified by the inspiring courtyard. And you, of course, in the world of architecture, know that it was the brainchild of Louis Kahn, but also Luis Barragan, who played an instrumental role in how that courtyard finally ended up being. And I think it has effect. So let me just tell you a few little personal things that have happened to me when I've been at the Salk since the beginning of this year in my role as president. I was just talking not so long ago to one of our associate professors, that means, one of our more junior scientist professors, and this person said to me, when I walk across the Salk courtyard and I look at the stars, I think anything is possible. I mean, I actually got goosebumps because I really understood what was going on. And our paths across the courtyard continually are crisscrossing. And so we intersect in unexpected ways. So I'll give you another personal anecdote. Just the other evening, I was walking across this beautiful courtyard on my way home, and one of the Salk facilities workers introduced himself to me, and he'd been working here for over a couple of decades. And he was one of the facilities people. That means, actually, specifically, he was one of these people who comes in the middle of the night to, for example, fix a freezer. Now, this is crucial because this might be full of priceless biological research materials, things that have taken years to develop. And if that freezer's not working, that material is lost. Years of work is lost. So these are crucial people. And he's been working a number of years at the Salk. And he said he'd been thinking. He said, some time ago, I remembered seeing a billboard in an airport, and it had a picture of the Salk Institute. He said to me, should we be putting one of these up again? And, people at the Salk are proud of being here, and I think it shows in things like that. And I really think the site's beauty and its just striking and inspiring architecture that people are in every day, I think that has a real part to play in that devotion that people have to Salk. Now, you might have noticed, those of you who watched the sunset, you might have noticed we're not at our most obviously picture perfect right now. Scaffolding, black shrouds, that's actually not part of the design. But yet, I found out yesterday, even that inspires, and in a whole new way. So one of our Salk graduate PhD students told me, he said he finds the black shrouded building apocalyptic. And so no matter what, it seems this building and its site can always evoke emotions and inspire even in unexpected ways. So there's a true spirit of this place and a significance of the architecture that it really imbues the science that happens here. Now, there's a term from classical Roman sites talking about the protective spirit of a place, genius loci, and I think surely that applies to the sulk, because we feel it every day. So, scaffolding and all, I want to welcome you to the sulk once again, and add my welcome to this wonderful event. Thank you for allowing me to participate in it, and welcome to this place. Thank you.